Maya Rodriguez walked through the crowded hallways of Lincoln High School, with her backpack slung over one shoulder, completely unaware that her life was about to change forever. At 17, she was just another face in the crowd of students rushing to their next class. Her long black hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore the same faded jeans and sneakers she had worn for the past 2 years. She lived in a small apartment with her grandmother, Elena, who had raised her since she was 8 years old. Maya never questioned why her parents weren't around. Her grandmother had always told her that her mother died in a car accident when she was young, and her father was someone who couldn't take care of her. It was a story Maya had accepted without much thought, focusing instead on her studies and part-time job at the local grocery store. That morning started like any other. Maya grabbed a piece of toast and kissed her grandmother goodbye before heading to school. Elena had been acting strangely lately, checking the news more often and making hushed phone calls when she thought Maya wasn't listening. But teenagers rarely pay attention to their guardian's odd behavior, and Maya was no different. The first sign that something was wrong came during third-period chemistry class. Maya was carefully measuring chemicals for an experiment when the classroom door burst open. 2 police officers in dark uniforms stepped inside, their heavy boots echoing on the linoleum floor. The teacher, Mrs. Henderson, looked confused as she approached them. "We're looking for Maya Rodriguez," one of the officers announced, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent classroom. Every student turned to stare at Maya, who felt her face burn with embarrassment. She had never been in trouble with the law before. The worst thing she had ever done was return a library book late. "That's me," Maya said quietly, raising her hand slightly. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Around her, classmates whispered and pulled out their phones, undoubtedly preparing to record whatever was about to happen. The officer walked over to her desk, his expression serious. "Maya Rodriguez, you need to come with us for questioning regarding illegal activities." Maya's mouth fell open. "What? There must be some mistake. I haven't done anything wrong." Her voice came out higher than usual, and she could feel tears threatening to form in her eyes. "Please gather your things and come with us," the second officer said, not unkindly but with authority that made it clear this wasn't optional. With shaking hands, Maya packed her backpack while 30 pairs of eyes watched her every move. She had never felt so humiliated in her life. As she walked toward the door, she heard students whispering things like, "I always thought she was weird," and "I wonder what she did." The walk down the hallway felt like the longest journey of her life. Other students pressed against classroom doors and windows to get a look at the girl being escorted by police. Teachers stepped out of their rooms, their faces filled with concern and curiosity. Maya kept her head down, wishing she could disappear into the floor. Outside the school, a police car waited with its lights flashing. Maya had seen police cars before, but she had never imagined she would be sitting in the back of one. The seat was hard plastic, and there was a thick barrier between her and the officers in front. The reality of her situation began to sink in. "Where are you taking me?" she asked as the car pulled away from the school. "Downtown police station," the driver replied. "You'll be processed there." Maya didn't understand what processed meant, but it sounded terrifying. She pressed her face against the window, watching familiar streets pass by. She saw the grocery store where she worked, the park where she used to play as a child, and the library where she spent most of her free time. Everything looked the same, but somehow different now that she was viewing it from the back of a police car. At the police station, Maya was led through a maze of hallways and offices. The building smelled like coffee and disinfectant, and the fluorescent lights made everything look harsh and unwelcoming. She was taken to a small room with a metal table and 2 chairs. One of the officers told her to sit and wait. Left alone, Maya tried to make sense of what was happening. She reviewed everything she had done in the past few weeks, searching for anything that could be considered illegal. She had jaywalked once when she was late for work, and she had accidentally taken a pen from the bank when she was depositing her paycheck. Surely these weren't serious crimes that required arrest. The door opened and a woman in a business suit entered. She had short brown hair and carried a thick folder. "Maya Rodriguez?" she asked, even though she clearly already knew the answer. "Yes, ma'am," Maya replied politely. Her grandmother had always taught her to be respectful to adults, especially those in authority. "I'm Detective Sarah Chen," the woman said, sitting across from Maya. We need to ask you some questions about your involvement with certain political activities. Maya blinked in confusion. Political activities? I don't know anything about politics. I'm just a high school student. Detective Chen opened her folder and pulled out several photographs. Maya gasped when she saw they were pictures of her grandmother's apartment, taken from outside. In some photos, she could see herself leaving for school or work. We've been monitoring suspicious activities at your residence, Detective Chen explained. There have been several meetings with known political operatives, coded phone calls, and large sums of money changing hands. Maya shook her head vigorously. You must have the wrong person. My grandmother and I live quietly. She's retired, and I go to school and work at Peterson's grocery. We don't know any political people. But as Maya spoke, she remembered the strange phone calls her grandmother had been making, always ending abruptly when Maya entered the room. She thought about the visitors who had come by the apartment recently, well-dressed people who spoke in whispers with Elena. At the time, Maya had assumed they were friends from her grandmother's past, but now she wondered if there was more to it. Detective Chen studied Maya's face carefully. You're telling me you have no knowledge of Elena Rodriguez's activities? No awareness of the money transfers or the meetings? Elena Rodriguez isn't my grandmother's real name, Maya said automatically, then stopped. She had never thought about it before, but she realized she had never seen any official documents with her grandmother's name on them. I mean, everyone calls her Elena, but the detective's eyebrows raised. What do you think your grandmother's real name is? Maya felt a cold knot forming in her stomach. I don't know. I've always just called her abuela, grandmother. For the first time in her life, she realized how little she actually knew about the woman who had raised her. Detective Chen made a note in her file. Maya, I think there are some things about your family that you need to learn. The interrogation room felt smaller with each passing minute. Maya sat in the hard metal chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap as Detective Chen spread more photographs across the table. Each image showed her grandmother talking with different people, exchanging envelopes, and meeting in various locations around the city. Your grandmother has been using multiple identities, Detective Chen explained, pointing to one of the photos. Elena Rodriguez is just one of several names she's used over the past 15 years. We believe she's been involved in illegal political funding and possibly espionage. Maya stared at the photographs, trying to recognize the woman in them as the person who had tucked her into bed every night and helped her with homework. The woman in the pictures looked secretive and careful, nothing like the warm grandmother who made her favorite soup when she was sick. This is impossible, Maya whispered. She's just my grandmother. She watches soap operas and knits scarves. She can barely use her cell phone. Detective Chen pulled out a tablet and showed Maya a video. In it, Elena was clearly visible entering a government building downtown, using what appeared to be an official keycard. She moved with confidence and purpose, not like someone who struggled with technology. This was taken last month, the detective said. Your grandmother accessed restricted areas of the federal building using credentials that don't officially exist. Maya watched the video with growing disbelief. The woman on the screen carried herself differently than the Elena she knew. Her posture was straighter, her movements more deliberate. Even her clothing was different. A professional suit instead of the comfortable dresses and cardigans Maya was used to seeing. I don't understand any of this, Maya said, her voice barely audible. Why are you showing this to me? I didn't know about any of it. Because we believe you might be involved either knowingly or unknowingly, Detective Chen replied. Large amounts of money have been deposited into accounts associated with your name. There are records of you making phone calls to numbers we're investigating. Maya's head shot up. What phone calls? I only call my grandmother and my job. Sometimes I call my study group partners for school. The detective consulted her notes. Last Tuesday at 8:47 p.m., a 43-minute call was made from your cell phone to a number registered to a political consulting firm in Washington, D.C. Last Tuesday I was working until 9, Maya protested. I was stocking shelves at Peterson's. Mr. Peterson can verify that. And I've never heard of any political consulting firm. For the first time, Detective Chen looked slightly uncertain. She made another note in her file. We'll need to verify your alibi. In the meantime, can you think of anyone who might have had access to your phone? Maya considered the question. She always kept her phone with her except when she was at home. At home, She often left it charging on the kitchen counter or forgot it in her backpack when she showered. Her grandmother would have had plenty of opportunities to use it. My grandmother could have used my phone, Maya admitted reluctantly. But why would she? She has her own phone. Because calls from your number wouldn't raise the same suspicions as calls from hers, Detective Chen explained. If she's been using you as an unwitting cover for her activities, it would be a very effective way to avoid detection. The idea that her grandmother might have been using her made Maya feel sick. She thought about all the times Elena had asked to borrow her phone, claiming hers was broken or that she couldn't remember how to dial a number. Maya had always been happy to help, never questioning why her grandmother needed to make so many calls or why she always insisted on privacy when making them. There's something else, Detective Chen said, pulling out another folder. We've been investigating your family background, and we've discovered some information that might be difficult for you to hear. Maya braced herself, though she couldn't imagine what could be worse than learning that her grandmother might be a criminal. The story you were told about your parents isn't entirely accurate, the detective continued gently. Your mother didn't die in a car accident. She's very much alive. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. She had grieved for her mother, had visited what she thought was her grave, had carried the sadness of being an orphan for 9 years. That's not possible, she said, shaking her head. I've seen pictures of the accident. I went to her funeral. The pictures were fabricated and the funeral was staged, Detective Chen said quietly. Your mother is alive, but she's been in protective custody. She was separated from you for your safety when you were 8 years old. Maya felt like the room was spinning. Everything she had believed about her life, about her family, about herself was crumbling around her. Why would my grandmother lie to me about something like that? And why would my mother need protective custody? Detective Chen hesitated before answering. Because your father is a very powerful and dangerous man. Your mother testified against him in a major corruption case and she had to disappear to protect both of you. My father? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. I thought he just couldn't take care of me. Your father is Marcus Webb, Detective Chen said, watching Maya's face, carefully for any recognition. The name meant nothing to Maya. She shook her head blankly. He's the presidential assistant for national security affairs, the detective continued. He's one of the most powerful people in the government, and he's been under investigation for selling state secrets to foreign governments. Maya laughed, a short, bitter sound that surprised even her. This is ridiculous. You're telling me that I'm the daughter of some important government official? I live in a tiny apartment and work at a grocery store. I buy my clothes at thrift shops. Does that sound like the life of someone connected to powerful people? That was exactly the point, Detective Chen said. Hiding you in plain sight, making you appear to be just another ordinary teenager. It was perfect camouflage. Maya stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I want to call my grandmother. I want to hear her explain all of this. I'm afraid that's not possible right now, the detective said. Elena Rodriguez was arrested this morning shortly after you were brought in. She's being held on charges of espionage, identity fraud, and money laundering. The news hit Maya like another punch to the stomach. Her grandmother, the only family she had ever known, was in jail. She was completely alone now, with no one to call and nowhere to go. Even if she could prove her innocence, what kind of life was waiting for her? What happens to me now? Maya asked, sinking back into her chair. That depends on several factors, Detective Chen replied. We need to determine how much you actually knew about your grandmother's activities. We need to verify your alibis and investigate your background more thoroughly. And we need to decide what to do about your father. What about my father? He doesn't know where you are. He's been looking for you and your mother for years. The question is whether we tell him we found you, or whether we continue to keep your location secret. Maya put her head in her hands. A few hours ago, her biggest worry had been passing her chemistry test. Now she was sitting in a police station, learning that nothing about her life was real. Her grandmother was a spy. Her mother was alive but hiding. And her father was a corrupt government official who had been searching for her. I need some time to think, Maya said finally. Unfortunately, time is something we might not have much of, Detective Chen replied. If your father finds out you've been located, he has the resources and connections to make you disappear again, possibly permanently this time. Maya spent the night in a holding cell at the police station, unable to sleep on the thin mattress that smelled of disinfectant and fear. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw images of her grandmother being arrested, of her mother supposedly alive somewhere, of a father she had never known who held one of the most powerful positions in the government. The next morning, Detective Chen returned with coffee and a breakfast sandwich that Maya couldn't bring herself to eat. The detective looked tired, as if she had spent the entire night working on Maya's case. "I have some updates," Detective Chen said, sitting across from Maya in the same interrogation room. "First, we've verified your alibi for most of the suspicious phone calls. Your supervisor at Peterson's Grocery confirmed you were working during several of the times calls were made from your phone." Maya felt a small wave of relief wash over her. "So you believe me now?" "I'm starting to," the detective admitted. "But there's still the matter of the bank accounts with your name on them. We've traced over $200,000 that's been deposited and withdrawn over the past 3 years. The number was so large that Maya couldn't even imagine what that much money looked like. Her entire paycheck from the grocery store was barely $300 every 2 weeks. "I've never seen that kind of money in my life," she insisted. "I have one savings account with about $400 in it from my job." Detective Chen nodded. "We found that account too. It's completely separate from the ones we're investigating. Someone has been using your identity to open accounts without your knowledge." "My grandmother?" "Most likely. She would have had access to all your personal information, your social security number, your birth certificate. It would have been easy for her to open accounts in your name." Maya thought about all the official documents she had never seen, all the paperwork her grandmother had always handled for her. She had trusted Elena completely, never questioning why she wasn't allowed to see her own birth certificate or social security card. "There's something else," Detective Chen continued. "We've been in contact with federal agents who have been investigating your father for years. They want to meet with you." The idea of federal agents wanting to talk to her made Maya's stomach clench with anxiety. "Why? I don't know anything about my father." "They think you might know more than you realize. Sometimes information can be passed along without someone being aware of it. They also want to discuss your safety." "My safety?" Detective Chen's expression grew more serious. "Your father has been looking for you and your mother for nearly 10 years. He has resources, connections, and a strong motivation to find you. If word gets out that you've been located, you could be in serious danger." Maya wrapped her arms around herself, feeling cold despite the warm temperature in the room. "What kind of danger?" "The kind where people disappear and are never found again," the detective said quietly. "Your father isn't just corrupt, he's dangerous. Your mother testified against him because she discovered he was selling military secrets to foreign governments. The information he sold led to the deaths of American agents overseas." The weight of this revelation settled over Maya like a heavy blanket. Her father wasn't just a corrupt politician. He was responsible for people dying. And somehow she was connected to all of it simply by being his daughter. "I want to see my grandmother," Maya said suddenly. "I want to hear her explain all of this herself." Detective Chen considered the request. "I can arrange that, but I want you to understand that everything she tells you might not be the truth. She's been lying to you for years." 2 hours later, Maya found herself in another sterile room, this one designed for prisoner visits. When Elena was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, Maya barely recognized her. Gone was the soft grandmother figure she had known. This woman looked smaller, older, and somehow more dangerous. "Mija," Elena said softly when she saw Maya, using the Spanish term of endearment she had always used. "I am so sorry you had to find out this way." Maya stared at the woman who had raised her, looking for signs of the grandmother she had loved. "Is any of it real? Did you ever actually care about me? Or was I just part of some cover story?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Everything I felt for you was real. Every bedtime story, every scraped knee I kissed, every proud moment when you got good grades. All of that was real. You became my granddaughter in every way that mattered. But you're not actually my grandmother." Elena shook her head slowly. "No, I worked with your mother in the intelligence community. When she needed someone to disappear with you, to keep you safe, I volunteered." Maya felt another piece of her world crumble. "You're a spy." "I was," Elena corrected. "I retired 15 years ago, but when your mother needed help, I came out of retirement. Taking care of you wasn't a job, Maya. It became my life. Then why did you use me? Why did you make phone calls from my phone and open bank accounts in my name?" Elena looked ashamed. "Because I was still trying to help your mother. She needed financial support to stay hidden. and she needed a way to communicate that couldn't be traced back to her. Using your identity provided a layer of protection. Protection for her, but not for me, Maya said angrily. Now I'm the one sitting in a police station being accused of crimes I didn't commit. I know, Elena said quietly. I thought I could keep you separate from all of this. I thought I could handle everything without involving you. I was wrong. Maya leaned back in her chair, studying the woman who had shaped her entire life. Is my mother really alive? Yes. She's been living under a different identity in another state. She's been desperate to see you, but it wasn't safe. And my father? Elena's expression hardened. Marcus Webb is a man who puts his own interests above everything else, including his family. Your mother discovered that he was selling information that put American lives at risk. When she tried to stop him, he threatened to have both of you killed. The casual way Elena spoke about death threats made Maya realize how different her life had been from what she thought. She had grown up believing she was just a normal teenager with a normal grandmother. But she had actually been living in a world of spies and secrets and life-or-death situations. What happens now? Maya asked. Now you have choices to make, Elena said. The federal agents want to use you to get to your father. They want you to make contact with him, to help them build their case against him. Maya's eyes widened. They want me to spy on my own father? A father I've never even met. It's dangerous, Elena admitted, but it might be the only way to stop him and make it safe for you and your mother to have a normal life. And if I say no? Elena's expression was grim. Then you'll probably spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, never knowing if today is the day he finds you. Maya sat in silence, trying to process everything she had learned. 2 days ago, she had been a normal high school student worried about chemistry tests and grocery store schedules. Now she was being asked to help bring down one of the most powerful men in the government, a man who happened to be her father. There's one more thing you need to know, Elena said softly. Your father doesn't just want to find you because you're his daughter. He wants to find you because you're evidence of his greatest vulnerability. If his enemies knew he had a daughter, they could use you against him. He needs to control you to protect himself. Maya understood the implication. Her father wouldn't be looking to reunite with a long-lost daughter. He would be looking to eliminate a security risk. 3 days after her arrest, Maya sat in a conference room at the federal building downtown, surrounded by men and women in expensive suits who spoke in quiet, serious voices. She had been released from police custody but was now under federal protection, staying in a safe house with 2 agents who watched her every move. Agent Rebecca Torres, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and graying hair, led the meeting. She had introduced herself as the lead investigator on Marcus Webb's case and had been tracking Maya's father for over 5 years. Maya, I need you to understand the gravity of what your father has done, Agent Torres began, spreading photographs across the conference table. These are CIA operatives who were killed because of information Marcus Webb sold to foreign governments. Maya looked at the faces in the photographs, young men and women not much older than herself. Each photo was accompanied by details about their deaths, their families, their unfulfilled lives cut short by her father's betrayal. He sold information about their identities and locations for $2 million. Agent Torres continued. These 7 people died so your father could buy a house in the Bahamas that he uses twice a year. The casual way Agent Torres spoke about the monetary value of human lives made Maya feel sick. She pushed the photographs away, unable to look at them anymore. What exactly do you want me to do? Maya asked. We want you to make contact with your father, Agent Torres explained. Reach out to him as his long-lost daughter who's just discovered the truth about her family. Let him find you. Maya shook her head immediately. Absolutely not. You just told me he's dangerous and that he might want to kill me to protect himself. We'll be watching every moment, Agent Torres assured her. You'll be wired for audio and video. We'll have surveillance teams monitoring your location at all times. The moment you're in any real danger, we'll intervene. The moment I'm in danger? Maya repeated. So you're admitting there will be danger. Another agent, a younger man named David Kim, leaned forward. Maya, your father has been untouchable for years. He's too smart, too connected, and too careful to be caught through traditional investigation. But if his own daughter reaches out to him, he might let his guard down. He might say or do something that gives us the evidence we need to arrest him. Maya looked around the room at the faces staring at her expectantly. These people had dedicated years of their lives to stopping her father, and now they wanted to use her as bait. "What makes you think he'll even respond to me reaching out?" Maya asked. "Maybe he doesn't care about having a daughter." Agent Torres pulled out a thick file and opened it to reveal dozens of documents. "These are private investigator reports that your father has been commissioning for years. He's spent over $500,000 trying to find you and your mother. He's hired some of the best investigators in the world. He absolutely cares about finding you." Maya skimmed through some of the reports, seeing her name mentioned repeatedly. The investigators had gotten close several times, even interviewing people who lived in her neighborhood. She realized that her entire life had been spent just 1 or 2 steps ahead of people hunting for her. "He's been looking for me all this time," Maya said quietly, "while I thought he was just someone who couldn't take care of a child." "He's been obsessed with finding you," Agent Torres confirmed. "We believe it's because you represent unfinished business to him. As long as you and your mother are out there, you're potential witnesses against him. You're also potential leverage that his enemies could use." Maya set down the investigator reports. "And my mother? Where is she in all of this?" "Your mother wants to see you," Agent Torres said. "But she's also terrified about what might happen if your father finds you first. She's agreed to participate in this operation if you consent to it." "She's going to be involved too? We want to reunite you with your mother in a very public way," Agent Kim explained. "We want your father to see news reports about a heartwarming reunion between a mother and daughter who have been separated for years. We want him to think you've been found accidentally, not as part of an investigation into him." Maya considered this plan, trying to identify all the ways it could go wrong. "What happens after he makes contact with me? What do you expect him to do or say that will incriminate him?" "We expect him to try to control the situation," Agent Torres replied. "He might try to buy your silence, or he might try to intimidate you. He might even try to recruit you to help him locate your mother. Any of these actions would give us evidence of witness tampering or obstruction of justice. And if he tries to hurt me, then we arrest him immediately for attempted murder," Agent Torres said firmly. "Either way, we get him." Maya realized that she was being asked to gamble her life on the competence of federal agents and the predictability of a man she had never met. If the agents were wrong about her father's reaction, or if their surveillance failed, she could end up dead. "I need to see my mother before I make this decision," Maya said finally. Agent Torres nodded. "That can be arranged. In fact, it's part of the plan. We want to stage your reunion in a way that will attract media attention and reach your father's notice." 2 days later, Maya stood in the arrival area of the city airport, her heart pounding with anticipation and terror. Cameras from 3 local news stations were positioned nearby, having been tipped off about a heartwarming family reunion story. Agent Torres had explained that the news coverage was essential to ensure that Maya's father would learn of her location. Maya spotted her mother before the reporters did. Isabella Martinez walked through the gate looking older than Maya remembered, her black hair now streaked with gray and her face lined with years of worry and stress. But her eyes were the same warm brown that Maya remembered from childhood, and when she saw Maya, she began to cry. The reunion was everything the reporters could have hoped for. Isabella dropped her bags and ran toward Maya, who met her halfway in an embrace that lasted for several minutes. Both women were sobbing, overwhelmed by emotions they had been suppressing for years. "Mija," Isabella whispered in Maya's ear, using the same term of endearment that Elena had used. "I have missed you every single day for 9 years." Maya held her mother tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume and feeling the reality of having her parent back. For a moment, she forgot about federal agents and surveillance operations and dangerous fathers. She was just a teenage girl being reunited with her mother. The cameras captured every moment of the reunion, and by evening, the footage was being broadcast on news stations across the country. The story was exactly what Agent Torres had hoped for, an emotional human interest piece about a family separated by tragedy and reunited by chance. That night, as Maya and Isabella sat in the safe house catching up on 9 years of separation, Agent Torres received the phone call she had been expecting. "We've got movement," Agent Kim reported from the surveillance center. Marcus Webb's office contacted 3 different news stations requesting copies of the reunion footage. "He's seen the reports." Agent Torres smiled grimly. The trap was set. Now they had to wait to see if Marcus Webb would take the bait and whether Maya would survive the encounter with her father. Maya didn't have to wait long. 3 days after the news reports aired, she received a phone call that changed everything. She was sitting in the safe house kitchen, eating breakfast with her mother and trying to pretend their situation was normal, when her cell phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. Agent Torres, who was monitoring all of Maya's communications, gestured for her to answer while simultaneously signaling to the recording equipment hidden throughout the house. "Hello?" Maya said, her voice uncertain. "Maya Rodriguez," said a deep, authoritative voice on the other end. "My name is Marcus Webb. I believe I'm your father." Maya felt her mother tense beside her. Isabella had not spoken to Marcus in over 9 years, but she clearly recognized his voice immediately. Her face went pale and she gripped Maya's hand tightly. I don't know what to say," Maya replied honestly. The federal agents had coached her on how to respond to this call, but hearing her father's actual voice made all their preparations seem inadequate. "I saw the news reports about your reunion with your mother," Marcus continued. "I've been searching for you both for a very long time. I'd like to meet you, Maya. I'd like to explain my side of the story." Maya looked at Agent Torres, who was frantically writing notes on a legal pad. The agent held up a sign that read, "Keep him talking." "Your side of the story?" Maya asked. "What story?" "The story of why your mother took you away from me," Marcus said, his voice taking on a slightly harder edge. "The story of why I haven't been able to be part of your life for the past 9 years. Maya could hear the manipulation in his voice, the way he was positioning himself as the victim. But she also heard something else, genuine emotion. Whatever else Marcus Webb might be, he seemed to actually care about her, at least to some degree. "She told me you were dangerous," Maya said, following the script the agents had prepared. Marcus laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. "I'm sure she did. Your mother has always had a flair for the dramatic. Maya, I work for the President of the United States. I help keep our country safe. Does that sound dangerous to you?" "I don't know," Maya said truthfully. "I don't really understand politics or government work." "Of course you don't. You're just a teenager who's been fed lies by people who wanted to hurt me." Marcus's voice grew warmer, more paternal. "But you're my daughter, Maya. You're my blood. Don't you think you deserve to hear the truth from me directly?" Agent Torres held up another sign. "Agree to meet." Maya took a deep breath. I guess I would like to meet you, to hear your side." "Wonderful," Marcus said, sounding genuinely pleased. "I'm going to send a car to pick you up tomorrow afternoon. We'll have lunch somewhere nice, somewhere we can talk privately." "I don't think my mother will want me to go," Maya said, glancing at Isabella, who was shaking her head vigorously. "Maya, you're 17 years old," Marcus said firmly. "You're old enough to make your own decisions about who you want to have a relationship with. Don't let your mother's fears and paranoia control your life the way they've controlled yours for the past 9 years." The way he spoke about Isabella made Maya angry, despite knowing she was supposed to be building rapport with him. "My mother protected me," she said defensively. "Protected you from what?" Marcus asked. "From having a father who loves you? From having opportunities that my position could provide? From being part of a family that could give you everything you've ever wanted?" Maya felt torn between anger and curiosity. Part of her wanted to hang up on this man who was criticizing her mother, but another part wanted to understand why her life had been turned upside down. "I'll meet with you," Maya said finally, "but I want to choose the place." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "That's reasonable," Marcus said, though he sounded less pleased than before. "Where would you like to meet?" Agent Torres quickly wrote Riverside Park Cafe on her notepad. It was a location the federal agents had already scouted and could easily monitor. "There's a cafe in Riverside Park," Maya said. "It's called the Garden Terrace. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock. "Perfect," Marcus replied. "Maya, I want you to know how excited I am to finally meet you. You have no idea how long I've waited for this moment." After Maya ended the call, the safe house erupted into controlled chaos. Agent Torres immediately began coordinating surveillance teams, while Agent Kim reviewed security protocols with Maya for what felt like the 100th time. "Remember," Agent Torres said, "you're wearing both audio and video recording devices. We'll have eyes on you from multiple angles, and we'll have agents positioned as cafe customers. If anything feels wrong, use the code phrase, 'I need some fresh air,' and we'll intervene immediately." Maya's mother pulled her aside while the agents continued their preparations. Mija, you don't have to do this, Isabella said quietly. We can disappear again. Helena taught me how to create new identities. For how long? Maya asked. How long do we keep running? I'm tired of living a lie, Mom. I want to know who my father really is, and I want this to be over. Isabella cupped Maya's face in her hands. Your father is charming and intelligent and absolutely ruthless. He will say whatever he thinks you want to hear. Don't trust him, even for a moment. The next afternoon, Maya sat at a corner table in the garden terrace, nervously stirring a cup of coffee she had no intention of drinking. The cafe was busier than usual, filled with what she now knew were federal agents pretending to be ordinary customers. At exactly 2 o'clock, a black sedan pulled up outside the cafe. Maya watched through the window as a tall man in an expensive suit got out of the car. Even from a distance, she could see the family resemblance. They had the same dark hair and the same strong jawline. Marcus Webb entered the cafe with the confidence of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any room. He spotted Maya immediately and walked over to her table with a warm smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Maya, he said, extending his hand, you're even more beautiful than your mother was at your age. Maya shook his hand, noting that his grip was firm and his smile seemed practiced. Everything about him projected power and control, from his perfect posture to his carefully styled hair. Thank you for agreeing to meet me, Marcus said as he sat down across from her. I know this must be overwhelming. It is, Maya admitted. A week ago I thought you were dead or just uninterested in being a father. Marcus's expression grew sad, though Maya couldn't tell if the emotion was genuine. I've been very interested in being your father, Maya. I've thought about you every single day for 9 years. I've wondered what you looked like, what you were interested in, how you were doing in school. Then why didn't you try harder to find me? I did try, Marcus said, leaning forward intently. I hired investigators. I used every resource available to me. But your mother is very good at hiding. She learned those skills when she worked in intelligence. Maya had been told that her mother worked in intelligence, but hearing it confirmed by her father made it seem more real. What kind of intelligence work? Your mother was a CIA analyst, Marcus explained. She was very talented at her job, but she developed some paranoid tendencies over the years. The intelligence world can do that to people. You start seeing threats everywhere, even where they don't exist. The way Marcus described her mother's concerns as paranoia bothered Maya, especially since she now knew that her mother's fears about Marcus had been justified. She said you were selling government secrets, Maya said, watching his face carefully for his reaction. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Is that what she told you? Maya, your mother left me because she disagreed with some policy decisions I was involved in. She took those disagreements and turned them into fantasies about espionage and betrayal. So you're saying she was lying? I'm saying she was confused and scared, Marcus replied smoothly. Working in intelligence can be very stressful. Your mother started to believe that routine diplomatic communications were actually criminal activities. When I tried to get her help, she ran away and took you with her. Maya found herself wanting to believe him. His explanation sounded reasonable, and he spoke with such confidence that it was hard to imagine he was lying. But then she remembered the photographs Agent Torres had shown her, the dead CIA operatives whose information Marcus had allegedly sold. If Mom was just confused, why have you been so desperate to find us? Maya asked. Why spend so much money on investigators? Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. Because you're my daughter, Maya. Because I love you and I've missed 9 years of your life. Because I want to be part of your future. His hand was warm and his voice carried genuine emotion. For a moment, Maya allowed herself to imagine what it would be like to have a father. Someone to be proud of her accomplishments, to give her advice, to protect her from the world. But then Marcus continued talking, and his words revealed the real reason he wanted to find her. I also want to protect you, he said. There are people who would like to hurt me by hurting you. Now that you've been found, now that your location is public knowledge, you're in danger. I can keep you safe, but only if you trust me. Maya felt a chill run down her spine as her father spoke about protecting her from people who wanted to hurt him through her. This was exactly what the federal agents had predicted he would do. Try to control her by making her afraid. What kind of people? Maya asked. playing along with his narrative while the recording devices hidden in her clothing captured every word. Marcus glanced around the cafe, as if checking for threats. Foreign governments, rival politicians, criminal organizations. When you work at my level, Maya, you make enemies. Powerful enemies who don't hesitate to target family members. But I'm not really part of your life, Maya pointed out. I haven't seen you in 9 years. Why would anyone consider me a threat or a target? Because you exist, Marcus said simply. Because you're proof that I have something to lose. Because you could potentially be turned against me if someone got to you first. Maya realized he was inadvertently admitting that she represented a vulnerability to him. Exactly as Elena and the federal agents had suggested. He wasn't trying to reunite with a beloved daughter, he was trying to neutralize a security risk. Turned against you how? Maya asked innocently. Marcus hesitated as if realizing he had said more than he intended. Well, someone could feed you lies about me, make you believe I was a bad person. They could try to get you to make false statements or accusations. Like the accusations Mom made? Exactly like that, Marcus said, his voice growing harder. Your mother was contacted by people who wanted to damage my career. They convinced her that I was doing things I wasn't doing. They used her paranoia against her, and ultimately against me. Maya nodded as if she believed him, but she was thinking about the dead CIA operatives in the photographs Agent Torres had shown her. Those weren't paranoid fantasies. Those were real people who had died because of information someone had sold. I want to believe you, Maya said carefully, but it's hard to know who to trust. I've been lied to by people I loved. How do I know you're telling me the truth? Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her face. That's a very mature question, Maya. I'm impressed by how thoughtful you are, despite everything you've been through. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. I brought you something that might help you understand the truth about your mother's accusations. Maya took the envelope, feeling the weight of documents inside. What is it? Medical records, Marcus said. Your mother's psychiatric evaluations from when she was working for the CIA. They document her increasing paranoia, her difficulty distinguishing between real threats and imagined ones. They also show that she was receiving treatment for delusional thinking. Maya opened the envelope and saw official-looking documents with government letterheads. The psychiatric evaluation reports made her mother sound mentally unstable, describing symptoms of paranoia, anxiety, and difficulty trusting colleagues. These could be fake, Maya said, though the documents looked authentic. They could be, Marcus agreed, but they're not. You can verify them through official channels if you want. The point is, your mother wasn't in a state of mind to make rational judgments about my work or my character. Maya stared at the documents, feeling confused and manipulated. She wanted to believe her mother, but the evidence Marcus was presenting seemed to contradict everything she had been told. There's something else, Marcus continued. I know about the federal agents who have been talking to you. Maya's blood ran cold. If Marcus knew about the FBI operation, then her cover was blown and she was in serious danger. She tried to keep her expression neutral, but Marcus was watching her closely. How do you know about that? Maya asked. Because I'm the presidential assistant for national security affairs, Marcus said with a slight smile. Very little happens in the intelligence community without my knowledge. Agent Rebecca Torres has been investigating me for years, and now she's trying to use my own daughter against me. Maya realized that the federal agents had underestimated Marcus Webb's resources and connections. He wasn't just aware of their investigation, he was probably several steps ahead of them. What did they tell you about me? Marcus asked. Maya decided that honesty might be her best option at this point. They said you were selling government secrets to foreign countries. They said people died because of information you sold. Marcus nodded as if this was exactly what he had expected to hear. And they want you to help them prove these allegations by recording our conversations and trying to get me to incriminate myself. Yes, Maya admitted quietly. And are you? Marcus asked calmly. Are you recording this conversation right now? Maya felt trapped. If she lied and he somehow detected the recording equipment, she would be in even more danger. If she told the truth, she would be admitting to participating in the federal investigation against him. Yes, she said finally. I'm wearing recording devices. Marcus smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. I know, I've known since you walked into this cafe. Maya. Do you really think the presidential assistant for national security affairs doesn't have access to surveillance detection equipment? Maya's heart was pounding now. If Marcus could detect her recording devices, then he probably had other capabilities that the federal agents hadn't anticipated. I want you to understand something, Marcus continued, his voice taking on a dangerous edge. The agents who are using you are not your friends. They don't care about your safety or your future. They're willing to put you in harm's way to advance their own careers. And you do care about my safety? Maya asked. I care about my family, Marcus replied. And despite everything that's happened, you are my family. You're my daughter, and I want to protect you from people who would use you as a pawn in their games. Maya looked around the cafe, suddenly aware that the federal agents posing as customers might not be enough protection if her father decided to take her by force. Marcus had resources and connections they might not be able to match. What do you want from me? Maya asked directly. I want you to come with me, Marcus said. Right now. I want to take you somewhere safe where we can talk without federal agents listening to every word. I want to show you evidence that will prove your mother's accusations are false. And if I refuse? Marcus's expression grew sad, but his eyes remained cold. Then you'll be making a choice that puts both of us in danger. The agents who are using you don't understand the forces they're dealing with. They're going to get you killed, Maya, and they won't care as long as they can use your death to build their case against me. Maya realized she was facing an impossible choice. She could go with her father and potentially walk into a trap, or she could refuse and potentially trigger a confrontation that could end badly for everyone involved. I need some fresh air, Maya said, using the code phrase that would signal the federal agents to intervene. But Marcus was faster than the agents had anticipated. Before Maya could stand up, he had reached across the table and grabbed her wrist firmly. I don't think so, Marcus said quietly. I think it's time for you to choose whose side you're really on. Maya looked toward the federal agents positioned throughout the cafe, but none of them seemed to be moving to help her. She realized with growing horror that something had gone very wrong with the operation, and she was on her own with one of the most dangerous men in the government. Maya's panic turned to confusion as she realized that the federal agents in the cafe weren't moving because they couldn't move. Looking more carefully, she noticed that several of the customers were sitting unnaturally still, their heads tilted at odd angles as if they had fallen asleep in their chairs. What did you do to them? Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. Marcus released her wrist but didn't move away from the table. Nothing permanent. A mild sedative gas was released through the cafe's ventilation system about 10 minutes ago. Your federal friends will wake up in a few hours with headaches and a lot of explaining to do to their supervisors. Maya felt dizzy and realized she had probably been affected by the same gas. Her thoughts seemed sluggish and her limbs felt heavy. How are you not affected? Marcus held up a small device that looked like an inhaler. Antidote. I've been taking precautions since before you arrived. He studied her face with what might have been genuine concern. You're feeling the effects now, aren't you? Don't worry, it's not dangerous. You'll just be a little drowsy for a while. Maya tried to stand up, but her legs wouldn't support her properly. The world seemed to be moving in slow motion and she had trouble focusing on Marcus's face. Why are you doing this? She asked, slumping back into her chair. Because I need you to understand the truth, Marcus replied. And the only way that's going to happen is if we can talk without federal agents orchestrating everything you say and do. Two men in business suits approached their table. Maya had noticed them earlier and assumed they were more federal agents, but now she realized they were working for her father. Sir, one of the men said quietly, we need to move quickly. The local police will respond to reports of people collapsing in the cafe within the next 15 minutes. Marcus nodded and stood up. Maya, these men are going to help you walk to the car. Don't try to resist or call for help. The sedative has made you too unsteady to run, and there's no unconscious in here who can help you anyway. Maya wanted to scream, to fight, to do something to resist being kidnapped by her own father, but the drug in her system made everything feel distant and unreal. She allowed the two men to help her to her feet and guide her toward the cafe's back exit. As they walked past the tables of unconscious federal agents, Maya saw Agent Torres slumped over her coffee cup, her eyes closed and her breathing shallow but steady. Maya felt a surge of guilt, realizing that these people had risked their lives to protect her, and now they were all unconscious because she had agreed to meet with her father. The black sedan was waiting in the alley behind the cafe. Maya was helped into the back seat where Marcus was already waiting. As the car pulled away, Maya watched the cafe disappear behind them and realized she had no idea where they were taking her. "Where are we going?" Maya asked, her words slightly slurred from the sedative. "Somewhere we can talk privately," Marcus replied. "Somewhere you can see evidence that will prove I'm not the monster your mother and the federal agents have made me out to be." The car drove through parts of the city Maya had never seen before, eventually pulling up to a large warehouse in an industrial district. Maya's head was clearer now, but she was still unsteady on her feet as Marcus's men helped her out of the car. Inside the warehouse, Maya was surprised to find what looked like a comfortable living space. Furniture, a kitchen, even a television. It was clearly a safe house of some kind designed for long-term occupancy. "Sit down," Marcus said, gesturing to a couch. "I want to show you something." Maya sat down carefully, still feeling the effects of the sedative. Marcus opened a laptop computer and turned the screen toward her. "This is a recording of a meeting between your mother and Agent Torres from 3 months ago," Marcus said. "I want you to listen carefully to what your mother says." Maya watched the screen as her mother appeared in what looked like another safe house. Agent Torres was sitting across from her, and both women looked serious and worried. "Isabella," Agent Torres was saying on the recording, "we need Maya to make contact with Marcus. It's the only way we're going to get the evidence we need to arrest him." Maya's mother shook her head. "Maya doesn't know anything about this world. She's just a normal teenager. If you put her in the middle of this, you could get her killed." "We'll protect her," Agent Torres insisted. "We'll have surveillance teams watching her every moment. Like you protected the 7 agents whose information Marcus sold?" Isabella replied angrily. "Like you protected me when I had to disappear for 9 years?" Maya stared at the screen, realizing she was watching her mother argue against the operation that Maya had eventually agreed to participate in. "Your mother didn't want you involved in this," Marcus said, pausing the recording. "She knew it was dangerous. She knew the federal agents couldn't guarantee your safety, but Agent Torres convinced her that it was the only way to stop me." Maya felt betrayed on multiple levels. Her mother had agreed to put her in danger despite having reservations. The federal agents had downplayed the risks, and now her father had kidnapped her to prove that everyone else was lying to her. "What do you want from me?" Maya asked tiredly. Marcus closed the laptop and sat down next to her on the couch. "I want you to disappear with me, Maya. I want us to leave the country and start over somewhere else. Somewhere we can be a real family without federal agents and ex-wives and lies complicating everything." Maya looked at her father, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. He wasn't offering her a relationship. He was offering her captivity. He wanted to take her away from everyone she had ever known, to isolate her completely so he could control her story and her future. "And if I refuse?" Maya asked. Marcus's expression grew cold. "Then you'll go back to your mother and the federal agents, and eventually someone will kill all of you. Maybe it will be foreign agents seeking revenge for operations I've disrupted. Maybe it will be domestic criminals trying to get leverage over me. Maybe it will be politicians who want to destroy my career. But someone will kill you, Maya, because you represent a vulnerability that too many people can exploit." Maya realized that her father wasn't trying to protect her from external threats. He was the threat. He was the reason her mother had spent 9 years in hiding. He was the reason Maya had grown up without knowing her true identity. "You killed those 7 CIA agents," Maya said, not making it a question. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I made difficult decisions in the interest of national security," he said finally. "Sometimes those decisions have consequences that outsiders don't understand." It wasn't a denial, and Maya understood that it was the closest thing to a confession she was likely to get from him. "I won't go with you," Maya said firmly. "I won't help you disappear from the consequences of what you've done." Marcus stood up abruptly, his paternal facade finally dropping completely. "Then you've chosen to be my enemy instead of my daughter." Maya heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Marcus's men approaching. But before they could reach her, the warehouse's front door exploded inward. Smoke filled the air, and Maya heard shouting voices and the sound of boots on concrete. "Federal agents!" Everyone on the ground. Maya saw Marcus pull a gun from inside his jacket, but Agent Torres appeared through the smoke faster than he could react. Maya watched her father, the presidential assistant for national security affairs, one of the most powerful men in the government, being tackled to the ground and handcuffed by the federal agent who had been unconscious in the cafe just hours earlier. "Maya," Agent Torres called out. "Are you hurt?" Maya stood up shakily, looking around at the chaos of federal agents securing the warehouse and arresting Marcus's men. "How did you find me so fast?" Agent Torres smiled grimly. "Did you really think we'd only put tracking devices in your clothes? We implanted a GPS chip under your skin 3 days ago, while you were sleeping in the safe house. We knew exactly where you were every moment." Maya looked down at Marcus, who was now lying face down on the concrete floor with his hands cuffed behind his back. He turned his head to look at her, and she saw in his eyes the same cold calculation she had seen in the cafe. "This isn't over, Maya," Marcus said quietly. "You have no idea what forces you've set in motion." But Maya realized she wasn't afraid of her father anymore. She had seen behind his mask of charm and authority, and she understood that he was just a man who had chosen power over family, secrecy over truth, and control over love. 6 months later, Maya sat in a courthouse watching her father being sentenced to life in prison for espionage, treason, and the murder of 7 CIA operatives. Her mother sat beside her, no longer in hiding, no longer afraid. Elena had been released from prison after cooperating with federal investigators and was sitting in the row behind them. As Marcus Webb was led away in handcuffs, he looked at Maya one last time. She met his gaze without flinching, no longer the confused teenager who had been arrested at her high school. She was someone who had learned that family isn't defined by blood, that truth is worth fighting for, and that sometimes the people who claim to protect you are the ones you most need protection from. Maya Rodriguez, her real name. She had learned, not an alias created for protection, walked out of the courthouse with her mother and the woman who had raised her. For the first time in her life, she knew exactly who